This will change the way you use your time. Do you find yourself in a daily drag because you have so many things to do in either work or at business, and it feels that you're not coming to a point where you actually feel satisfied when a day passes by? And I can tell you that I have tried this method for the past 30 days, and I will be sharing the results in this video. I tried using the Eisenhower Matrix to allocate my time and see what effects it has on my productivity and ultimately on my well-being, having that sense of satisfaction at the end of the day, knowing that I have performed the work well. So let's get started, and I want to share you this model. As you can see here, we have four quadrants, and the Eisenhower matrix is divided into four topics, and these four topics look at two basic questions. And these are questions you can start asking yourself at the beginning of every day. When you're planning your day or you're planning your week, ask yourself, what is the importance? Is there a high importance or is there low importance for the task at hand? Where should I allocate my time on? Of course, priority is always on the important tasks. At least that is, from a strategic perspective, what makes most sense. The second question is the urgency. So is something highly urgent or something not so urgent? And if you combine these two basic questions, you get the matrix that is divided into four components. So you have tasks that can be divided into an area that is the tasks or activities that are highly important and highly urgent. Those tasks you should prioritize and immediately do. So then you have second types of questions, which is having a high importance but not being so urgent. Those activities and tasks you can then plan in for the next day or perhaps the next week. Moving on to the third quadrant are activities that are not so important and perhaps are highly urgent, right? So, for example, an emergency happened, problem around the house, problem around the business, trying to solve that issue. That's an activity that, for example, you can delegate. You can give the task to someone perhaps that can help you, support you in what you have to do. So you buy yourself more time. And the last quadrant looks at tasks that are neither important and neither urgent. So these tasks you should basically leave for last. So what I did was I applied this Eisenhower matrix for a month to see how things work with regard to my productivity and also with my, let's say, well-being at the end of the day. So what I found was that there is a huge difference in being consistent day to day in, day out, and having a clear sense of, or let's say better said, a clear feeling that knowing that what you're doing, the time that you're spending on building your business, on your work, is used for the best possible task. So this is a very powerful question that you can be asking yourself at the beginning of every day, which will help to interpret and to use this matrix in your own daily life. And that question is, what can I do today to improve my situation? And what task will help me get there? Because that question already starts moving things around in your mind with regard to what can I do today? So what is the most important thing that I can do today that has the biggest impact on my life? So what is the most important and what is the most urgent? So imagine if you're starting a business, you know that acquiring customers is one of the most and first priorities to start with. So that should be your first priority. So you can then focus your time, you can focus the majority of your time on that important task and then allocate to the other tasks of planning a task for later, delegating, or either postponing, or even not picking up a task that is not important and not urgent. So what can you use this model for? You can use this model, like I mentioned, in your everyday work. You can use it in your business operations. There are a lot of ways that you can apply this principle to. You could even apply it if you're perhaps you're studying or you're working on a project that requires your time. And this is a very powerful model. In my eyes, this model has an enormous amount of value, because what you're doing is that we all have 24 hours a day. Everyone has 24 hours a day. And the question is always, how effectively do you use your time? So, what activity creates the greatest return? And usually, the activities that fall in the first quadrant, the do today, are those activities that will give you the highest return. And that doesn't mean that in life you will only be performing activities that have a high importance and high urgency. That isn't the case, but it is about you being conscious of the fact that you shouldn't be spending the majority of the time on tasks that are neither important, neither urgent. But that's obvious. But the point is that a lot of people, even though being so obvious and so straightforward, they still find themselves. I personally find myself also at times doing activities that are not so important but are urgent. So imagine that you own a business and you need to do your tax filing. From your perspective, or from my perspective, that wouldn't be the most important thing to do, because other things are more important that could be that your valuable time could be allocated to. But because it is urgent, because there is a deadline attached to doing your tax return, you know that you have to spend time there. And that's okay. That's totally fine. So there's nothing wrong with that. But just having this tool is so useful in planning your day, in knowing where to spend your time on. And you could also imagine yourself to when you're in the phase of growing your business, you're acquiring your employees, you're acquiring people that help you, support you in building your business. You can also help to kind of delegate this skill to them, so that you are basically training them to use the time that you pay them for as best as possible. So it is a tool that is also very, very easily transferable, and it provides enormous value for the time it requires to actually set up. You just basically, at the beginning of the day, that's the way I do it. I just draw up a quadrant of the activity, or draw up a quadrant, 4 boxes, which represent the highest priority towards lowest priority. And then I write down all my tasks for the day, and then I allocate those tasks to a quadrant. And I always start with what's the most important and the most urgent, and I end with the tasks that are least important and least urgent. And then at the end of the day, I know that I will have used my time as best as I can and as efficiently as I can. And that in turn creates motivation. And that motivation is something that is very useful in keeping you consistent day in, day out. In the end, consistency is what brings us from a point where we are perhaps not satisfied with our life to a point where we actually have created, we actually built something with our lives. And I see so many people that are wanting they want to give up because they have tried to build a business, build a social media channel, build a branding, learn an instrument, learn a new job, learn a new skill, whatever the case is. After having only tried for 6 months, having put in all their effort, haven't seen the results that they wanted, so decided to quit. The question is, are you willing to put in the effort and the time to consistently put in an enormous amount of energy and effort and diligent work and practice using, for example, tools such as the Eisenhower Matrix, not for 6 months, but for 6 years? That is when you can start pretending to receive something. And receive as in see the fruits of your labor. There is this beautiful analogy of planting a seed and then watching that seed grow, turn into a beautiful, beautiful, huge tree, right? The same applies to us. If we dare to plant the seed today and to water that seed for the coming years by being consistent and daily walking out towards that plant, using your time, even if you don't feel like it, even if the weather is against you, walking out towards that plant, watering it, taking care of it, tending it, pruning it, giving it the love and attention it needs, and seeing it grow into a huge, healthy tree. That's one of the most satisfying things I think you can achieve. So I think, well, that was a bit longer than I expected to be, but that basically describes the use of the Eisenhower Matrix. The Eisenhower Matrix can be used to improve your productivity, to improve your time management skills, and overall create a more, let's say, a sense of peace at the end of the day, knowing that you've spent your time on the things that are the most important. So thank you for your time. I really hope you find this video, you found it valuable, that you took a lesson from it. And if you did, then please subscribe, leave behind a comment, leave behind a like, and we'll see you in the next one. I have a video about branding, why branding is so powerful, and a playlist on how you can build your business from scratch, knowing that the business is something that your creativity gets a place to grow, receives a safe environment where you can actually build something of your own. So again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.